Hello and welcome to another episode of Sandy Killer Projects. Today we're going to start working on putting some armor on the bottom side of the doors along here and the rear skirt section back here. This is not a very difficult job, but because I already have the bushwhacker fender flares on here, I have to make some adjustments, and on top of that, somebody plasti dipped the doors a while back. So what I'm going to do to start with is mask off up to the line right here, and then I'm going to spray some flat black paint on there to get fill around the rest of the part where the armor is going to go. As you can see, my doors are not in very good shape. This car was whacked on both sides before I got it. And this is the driver's side, this is pretty much the way I got it, except for the little bumper guards were still on here, and I pulled it off when I did the bushwhacker fender flares. Alright, so this is the passenger side, and the lighting over here doesn't really show what's going on with it completely, but the rock sliders down here, how far they are pushed in the door, used to be pushed in that far. The door is really ugly looking, it's really ripply because I just pushed it back out with some bars so I'd be able to get a flat surface to bolt the armor to. But same thing, it's plasti dipped, so I'm going to mask off along that line there, and then I'm going to hit it with some flat spray paint. Then I also need to back up the fender flares so that I can get the armor in back behind them. So before we get started on the project, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Alright, so for the rest of the video I'll be testing out some new equipment with the camera, so if the sound sounds different, that's part of the reason why. But as you can see, I've masked off the area that I'm going to end up painting. I've pulled back the fender flares. They just unscrew, they have a rubber grommet behind them. As I mentioned in the bushwhacker video, I hate this little tapey stuff. It's gotten all stuck to the plasti dip that's on there. So what I'm going to do is in the areas that are red and exposed, especially along the edges and down onto the rocker panel, I'm going to spray some flat black paint just to cover it all up. Alright, so here it is painted up. It's a little hard to see in the shadow on this side. We'll go around to the other side and take a look at that so you can see what was done over there. Yes, the paint is going up onto the tape. Is there drips? Yep. Is there runs? Yep. Is there light spots? Yep. I put 3 coats of paint on this. It should coat. The reason why I'm not so worried about drips, on top of the fact that I don't really care what this truck looks like, is the plate only shows about 1/4 to 1/2 inch around the edges of the doors. The rocker panel itself could use the paint, especially since it had a really bad plasti dipping job that was chipping off. That's all cleaned up now. So this is the other side. At the point right here, I'm going to have to let it sit and dry. After it's dried, I'll take the tape off, and then we'll start on the actual armor plating, which will be next. Alright, so here's how it looks with the lower part of the car painted. As you can see, I decided to take the rear piece off because the way this cut fender kit works, it goes all the way up to the point where the fender has been cut. So it was either that or I end up cutting a whole set of holes right along there off of it, and that didn't seem worthwhile. So I took this piece off. The next thing that's going to happen is the armor plate that I'm holding up here. I'm going to mark the middle hole, which is that one right in the center of the screen there. That one is going to get marked. I'll drill it. The drill that is required to do this is a W bit, which is a weird size. If you're going to look for it numerically, it's a 25/64, which is not a normal size either. It doesn't come with your kit either, but it's the size it looks about like that. So the kit also recommends, if you're worried about your paint, that you lay a layer of tape across here and then drilled through the tape. As you can see, I'm not super worried about the paint. I didn't even paint underneath where the fender flares go. So I'll drill the hole and then show you what goes on after that. Alright, so here's the rear fender with the one center hole put on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the nutserts, which is this brass piece down here. It's called a nutsert or a nut insert. Put a washer on it, put the larger nut on it that's not really going to do anything except for act for something to press on, and then the bolt itself will go through all that. As you can see, even though I've drilled the hole that's required, this doesn't drop in, which there's a reason for it. If it were to drop in, it would go in too easy. So this is going to get just lightly tapped down into place. Okay, so with the setup that I have, there isn't really a way for me to show how to do this while holding the camera with the other hand. The nut insert is in the fender now. You take the a half inch wrench and hold on to this inner nut, and then you take the 7/16 and you tighten down on it. And you'll tighten down quite a bit. You'll actually feel the resistance start to get higher, and that's when you know you're tight enough. So I'm going to have to do that the rest of the way off camera. Okay, so a couple of problems that we run into so far with this kit. Trying to run a W through bit even through sheet metal doesn't go easy. I ended up having to pilot it with a 5/32, just something small enough so I could poke a hole to get it started and then put it in. Then the little setup that they expect you to use to make the nutsert set, which is basically something like this. They take the thread size that fits and an oversized one and a washer so that you don't wreck into it, and tell you to keep cranking it down so that it draws the inside of the nutsert up. That doesn't work. The only way I was able to make that work was with a ratchet, electric ratchet or an air ratchet. It needed something to put more force onto this. If your nutsert is wiggling or moving, or if the thing is all the way back in if the threads are all the way back in the tunnel, you don't have this set right. So with it like this, where the threads are drawn up, that is the correct way to put it on. So the next thing that you have to do, so you take the one bolt, put a bolt in it, get it to where it's nice and level with your top line edge here. Then once you get that, mark your holes in the other 5 spots for this panel, and then drill the holes as you would, set your nutserts, and put all the bolts into it to hold it into place. Okay, so as you can see, I have all 6 nutserts in. Even using this process, there were at least 2 points where the nutserts didn't want to lock up. When I did that, I put another 7/16 bolt behind, or actually I should say 1/4-20 nut behind the 1/4-20 bolt, and I tightened them both down as tight as they would go, and then I tightened the jam bolt into the back of it. Okay, so the bolt on the top is the setup that they have you use. It's 1/4-20 bolt, 5/16 nut, and a washer. It's really hard to jam it up like that, so like I said, I was using a ratchet wrench, that guy right there. When it won't set even with that, I was taking the 1/4-20 and another 1/4-20 nut, replacing it for the 5/16, running all of this down into the hole as tight as it would go, and then tightening up this against it, which means I would actually be reversing it, so it would cause the nutsert, this guy, to malform just enough to where I could then take all of this off and put the 5/16 setup back into it, and then hold on to the back with a 1/2 inch and drive the top down with the ratchet wrench. So once that happened, then the nutsert's pulled up. Also, if you're looking for perfection in the way the metal's going to look after you do this, it actually dimples this in because it is pulling this to form the crimp on the back of these nutserts. So the other problem that I have with this is because I have fender flares that sit right around where this line is. This is actually one of my fender flare bolts, so I'm actually going to have to punch a hole in the plate at this point to make an opening for my fender flares. As you can see, I'm already starting to install the body armor panel. I have these 3 bolts already set. I put them down with some 242 blue Loctite. The Allen wrench that goes into these, they don't provide, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm going to say it's 4mm. The problem is the only one that I have is one of these IKEA furniture non-marked ones. I'm going to assume, since it's Swedish, it's probably metric. Also, this hole, I misdrilled it. I'm not particularly worried about it because the armor plate is going to sit over the top of it. I'm going to silicone fill the other hole, and I'm going to put a bead of silicone all the way around the outside of this, some black RTV sealant, and then we'll put the fender flare back on. Alright, as you can see here, the armor is on and done. The fender flare is still hanging on. I just put it on so you can see. I filled the hole back there that was over drilled. There's silicone along the top and both bottom sides. I didn't do the bottom so that water could drain out if water does get into it. This one is pretty much done. Okay, so I'm already to the point on the other side where I'm ready to install the armor plate. The one thing I do want to say about this kit that's a little weird and janky is it only comes with the exact same number of nutserts that are in here, and I've had issues with 2 of them on this side and 2 of them on the other side, so that's 4 out of the 12 nutserts didn't really work properly. Also, they only give you one bolt to deal with, and with me rattling it on with the wrench, the ratchet wrench, it's pretty messed up. On top of that, so the bolts are right, but I don't know what all these washers are for. I absolutely wouldn't put washers on the face of the armor plate. It'd look really weird. This is the only company that I know of offhand that makes this armor setup for these XJs. If there's another company out there, it's probably a lot more expensive. This is a pretty cheap kit. I think the back kit that I'm doing right now is about 80 bucks. I think the door kit's about 120. It was about 200 altogether for everything, but it shows because there's a lot of weird, not so quality stuff. Okay, so here's the rear armor plate on, installed, completed with the fender flare put back into place. So the other complaint I have about this kit is, as you can see from the armor panel, it's got a bunch of scratches on it. This came from the factory that way. That's not the way I ordered it. I don't really care. Car's got scratches and dings and dents all over it. Just gives more character, but really if I were ordering this as like some kind of pretty truck, I'd be pretty furious that this was scratched up and dinged like this. This is going to wrap up the first half video of us installing the lower body armor. As you can see, that's the one on there on the driver's side. Next we'll be doing a video on the kit that's for the doors. There's a little bit more parts to the doors, but it actually is easier to install those. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll keep making more videos. Thanks.